Ali, season 1. Today we have a near and dear friend of mine, Orlando Torres. Just some background information. Orlando was the second person that I spoke to about this podcast. And one thing he told me that's a core memory for me is don't let that dream stay in that book. Make sure it comes out. So I appreciate you. I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for your time. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Yes, please.
First and foremost, how are you?
Good. I'm very, very good. I'm actually excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. First podcast, like she mentioned, but more excited to be part of something that I know is going to be great. So I'm going to be like the OGs of your podcast.
Let's go ahead and let's, tell the people who is Orlando Torres.
Okay. So how much time do we have on the podcast? So Orlando Torres, me. Originally from Boston, Massachusetts. Born and raised up in the north. Sorry for South Carolinians. But born and raised back in a long time ago. And my parents are technically from Colombia. My mom and my dad are from Colombia. So I'm Colombian by blood. But my stepfather came into my life when I was about 9 years old. And he's from Guatemala. And so I was raised in the Guatemalan community, the Guatemalan cultures. So for me, in essence, I feel more Chapin, Guatemalan, than Colombian. And so a lot of people ask me, it's like, but you don't sound Colombian. I'm like, no, I don't sound it at all. I sound more Central American, more Chapin, more, than Colombian. So my Spanish has an accent, but it's more Central American. Raised in Boston, grew up in Boston, and was in Boston all my life up until I was about, I can't even remember, so long ago, in my 20s. And an opportunity came where I was able to go to do a financing job in Japan. Moved out to Japan, so I was single and headed out to Japan and went out there and completely mind blown. And out there, I met my wife and was out there for about 4 years. And then from Tokyo, Japan, we ended up being relocated to Hong Kong because our equity sales trading the bubble burst, the whole thing, and they had to downsize, so things had to move around. And so they could choose either Hong Kong or Australia. My entire being wanted to go to Australia. And we got sent to Hong Kong, which was not bad, which is another experience, which is great. But definitely more for the single person. And I was already married with children at that point. And so went to Hong Kong. We were there for about 8 months, 9 months. And it was hard. Same job that I was doing finance trading out there, but very difficult. Like just the atmosphere was very different from Japan. Asian country, two similarly-ish countries, but are very different in how they do things. And we just didn't feel as home and as welcome, as comfortable in Hong Kong. So after that time, we were like, we got to go. And so my wife, who is Brazilian, but was raised in Japan, had never been to the States. And so we were like, well, why don't we come to the U.S.? And so she followed me from Japan to Hong Kong, and then she followed me again from Hong Kong to Massachusetts. And when I tell you that she came at the worst time, because the North is known for being cold. Japan gets a little bit of snow where we are. Where we lived is a place called Tokyo, very, very central. If it snows out there, it'll stick maybe for 1 or 2 days and it just disappears. She had a reality check when it was a nor'easter. So think of it as a hurricane of snow and wind. And then 3 came through, one right after the other. So you'd have 2 days of just full snow. It'll get bogged down. The sun will melt it because the sun comes out. It melts it, but then it freezes because it's so cold. Then the next one hits, so it doesn't have enough time to freeze and melt all the way. The next one just piles on top of it. So now it's like more new snow, and then it freezes on top. So now you got like 2 layers of snow. And then the third one came through. And so this was her introduction to cold weather. So we were in Boston, and again, Boston's my hometown, and I love Boston, but I don't miss it. We were there for, I can't remember, I want to say about 2 years, and my wife was just like, "Listen, baby, I love you, but either we go or I go." And so we were like, "No, you're right." I mean, we were, just different things in life. The transition of my children from a Japanese and kind of, international schooling to now public schools of the U.S. Very different. And it was a growth process for all of us. I mean, it was a little bit harder on the kids and my daughters. So going back to a little bit of me, husband to a beautiful and successful, I would love to get her on your podcast, by the way.
We have to.
Woman, she's Brazilian and, like I said, Brazilian born, but raised in Japan. Father to 3 beautiful girls, and not just physically beautiful, but just beautiful people. And I'm very proud of them. Very different. 1, 2, and 3, all 3 are different in their own way. I tell everybody, like, my oldest is very independent, beautiful mind, independent since she was little. I mean, she wanted to do her own thing, and everything was structured for herself. And so, she's out in college. She's over at University of South Carolina now.
Go Gamecocks.
Junior year. Go Gamecocks. Spurs up. She just got accepted into the business school out there. So I'm excited for her. She got 1 more year to go. Hopefully she can get through it. My middle one, so my oldest is turning 22 at the end of the month. My middle one is 14. And she's one of the artistic spirits. So she's very much relatable to you. Very much, again, independent as well. Very selective in friends. But loves to create things. Like, one day she wants to be a singer. The next is a guitarist. The next is piano. The next is, I don't know, just anything. And I love that about her, because she's constantly wanting to create stuff. We still got to work on the focus part, but the creative part, absolutely proud of it. She's my little me, my little mini me. She's my personality, but just a little bit more younger. And then the last one, my 7-year-old. Something went wrong there, but she is a ball of fire. Like, she's just constantly active. She's basically the son I've never had. So she's constantly, always just keeping everybody on their toes. So she's all 3 of them very different. Very, very different. But yep. So married, been married since 2008. Obviously, with everything has ups and downs, and things are hard sometimes, and sometimes they're amazing, but it's a growth process. And so I've been very lucky to have her. I mean, it's they say, it takes a village to raise the children, but it takes a strong woman for a man to be successful sometimes. And and I'm very grateful for her. So, I mean, like I said, she needs to be on this podcast.
Yeah. Something that I have to say is I've always admired how you speak of your wife.
It's not hard when you meet her. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, she's very introverted. She's beautiful. Like, my wife is beautiful. But she knows it, but she doesn't believe it sometimes. It's weird. But she's very much the most humble person you'll ever meet. And you know what I mean? So she's always working. She is very, very much an ambitious person. Like, I mean, when I say ambitious, she's like, "Baby, look at this listing for this house. I think it's going to be our next house." And I'm looking, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty." And I look at the price. I'm like, "Girl, that's over $1 million." Like, let's reel it in a little bit. But no, she's always wanting to do more, always wanting to do better, always wanting to, improve. And I mean, honestly, she has that ability, and I sometimes feel like I lack it. And so I need that. Sometimes I wish I could tone it down, but it's still, I need it. So she's my sort of my live-in kick in the butt. It's the best way I could put it. But yeah, so when you meet her, you'll never know. You'll never know the stuff that she's went through, like the struggles that she's done. But she's very different. She's very, very, very different. Back to my story. I told you. We came back to Boston, and we were done with the snow. So we were there for about 2 years, done with snow. And my wife was like, let's just look anywhere. Let's just apply something. And for me, it was hard because I had a really good job in Asia. I mean, I was basically like a trader of equity. So think like stock market and Wall Street, but a little bit lower level where it's not so much that fast pace. Oh, sell, buy, sell, buy. It's more like we were a kind of a bank of different stocks of different companies, and we were lending it out to other banks. So for us, it was a little bit simpler. It wasn't as fast paced, but it was high pressure. And so I came from a position there to then coming to the US and not being able to find a finance job at all. And I struggled for months. I could not find a job. And so it didn't matter because, out there I had the experience, 5 years trader. Didn't matter in the US. What was your degree? Sociology. When did you graduate? Didn't. So, and I hope my mom doesn't watch this podcast because she holds that over my head every day. I'm literally 2 classes shy from graduating, but it's been so long. It would cost like $30,000 just to finish 2 classes to be able to get a diploma.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the re-enroll process. So anyway, couldn't find a job in Boston in finance, and so leaned on my now brother-in-law. And he and my brother, actually, they worked at the same company, and they were like, Orlando, we'll just try IT. And so I was like, okay. I was like, I'm not too clueless about it, but I was able to, I'm a fast learner. And so went into IT and got into the IT job, and it was just, that was a grind. And back in Boston, there's a big network of hospitals. Some of the best hospitals in the country are in Massachusetts. You have Boston Children's Hospital, you have Mass General, you have Boston Medical, a bunch of really big hospitals out there. And so their IT team really took over like an umbrella for all of them. And so I jumped into the support and kind of like, hey, my computer's locked out. Okay, you got to just update your password. I can't do that. These are doctors, by the way. I can't update my password. Okay, I'll help you. So it's that kind of support. And that kind of grew and grew and grew and grew. And so not graduated, but got promoted into a management position to lead a team for a specific website for the hospitals. And I started seeing my progression there. And then that's kind of when my wife and I were just like, we're done with snow. So what are we going to do? We started applying anywhere south. So I'm talking about from like California, Arizona, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. We applied anywhere hot. And we were like, wherever we get a job, we go. And so we were already used to moving around, country to country. So within the country wasn't going to be a big deal.
Right.
So we sent out a whole bunch of resumes out, and we got hit. Someone offered us a job, but not to me, to my wife. And she was just starting her career in makeup. She was working weddings out in Massachusetts. So she was kind of like, like just doing makeup and like airbrush makeup and all that stuff, getting stuff ready for weddings because out there is big too. And so she applied as well, and a company down here that was opening up. So I guess these investors from New York decided to, hey, let's open up a beauty place in the center of Charleston, which is a big destination city for weddings. So they had a good concept. They brought it. They needed someone that had experience. They saw her work. They loved it. Offered her a job. And she looked at me. She goes, we got a job. And I said, nice. And I was like, how serious is it? She goes, no, it's a solid job, I think. I had no offers. I had nothing. So I was stuck because I had a good job. And I had my family near me. And I was living back in my hometown. And it hit. And I was just like, we were thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And she was like, what do we do? And it was at that time, I thought about it and I was like, you know what? You followed me from your hometown to Tokyo, from Tokyo to Hong Kong to the US. How can I not just follow you like you did to me? That's what clicked in my head. And I was just like, let's go. And don't know. From there, it's like a blur. Like it was like, next thing I remember is a Toyota Sienna van filled up where it looked like a hoopty with the tire hitting like the absolute ground. It was loaded with suitcases and everything. Everything was loaded up. And we moved. we moved out here. And, you know, just South Carolina became home ever since then. Now, once I got here, I did get a job, but I couldn't get a job again in finance. So the closest thing I got was I got a job at South State Bank as a wire transfer specialist. So basically anything dealing with wire transfers, like the back end stuff, not the actual person meeting the customer in the bank, but like in the back. Like it was so back that the bank had a vault that used to be for a bank that then got cleared out and now was made into a little office space so we can never be in, you know, met with other people. Like that's how back it was. And so was there for about a year. I'm very grateful. Again, I'm, and I'll get to this later, but I have been very fortunate to having a lot of very good managers in my life. And not just good in terms of what they did, but very good in terms of seeing potential and pushing it, not holding it, but pushing it.
Leaders.
Yes, exactly. And so they, after I think it was almost a year, and they were like, Orlando, you don't need to be here anymore. You need to go. And I remember to this day, it was Allison and Haisha, and they're both like, yeah, you don't need to be here. And so a position opened up in IT. So again, now kind of reverting back to IT, they were like, there's a positioning open up in IT. And so I was like, you think I should apply? They're like, why haven't you yet? And so I applied, and I think not even a month later, I was now back in IT. And it was good. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of learning because this is a different IT that I did before. Before it was support. Here it was a little bit more hands-on. Like if there's like a rollout for new Windows or just kind of updating computers or, you know, and there was a lot more projects. And so I knew that my strength was people. My strength is being able to talk to somebody and relate to them, no matter what position, no matter what. It's just being able to kind of feel comfortable and just like, hey, you know me, I know you for about 5 minutes, but I'll make it feel like it's been years. And so they leverage that with IT because IT, you don't think about relationships. You think about, I got a problem, fix it, go. Right? But when you have these bigger projects, it's nice to have someone there that can ease that transition for the person that isn't IT savvy. And with the IT people that are not, maybe they don't, not like real people, they're like, yeah, I don't really want to talk to them. I just want to fix their computer. Right? So I was a hybrid. And so they leveraged it. The problem is that I realized the value, except the problem is that the bank doesn't pay much. And so I had to be like, well, this is what I think I'm worth. And they were like, well, this is what, you know, the gauge is in the industry. And I'm just like, well, I mean, those numbers don't seem to kind of coincide. So, you know, it's that kind of like started making me think about self-worth. And so, mind you, I was at a very good job. And then I was jobless. And then I had an okay job. Then it turned into a good job. And then I moved and I got basically a low job.
I have a question for you, though,
Yes.
through this, as you're talking about this. How do you work through your confidence? Like, how do you, because people make career changes often, right? They move, they're in a position where, I mean, the first example that comes to mind is an individual that's perhaps in a corporate job, leaves their job, tries to start their own business, you know, so invest some money in it, but it's a bit before it can like sustain itself and bring in profit. How do you, as an individual, keep your confidence, your self-confidence, also your self-love, and like you don't allow your worth to be, I guess, mixed up with the money that you're making?
So that's a very tricky question to answer because I might expose a little bit more than people would want to hear. But if you meet a successful person, at some point, they're only successful because they failed. That's it. If they've never failed, then they don't know what success is. It's true. So for me, I've failed several times. But this is where I have to chime in my wife again, because no matter how bad I failed, she kept pushing me. And she reminded me of, remember how you were hungry and you did stuff fearlessly. Remember that and do it again. And I tell you, like, I think about it and I get goosebumps because I'm just like, I was in the lows of lows. And she just looked at me. She goes, we got to go. We got to go. No questions asked. Just, we got to go. Then we got to go. And it's, I mean, you talk about confidence. I mean, that's all her. Now, how does it how does it appear? It's that analogy that people talk about, a duck on a pond. On the top, everything is calm. The duck is just, swimming on the water. But underneath that water, them legs just moving a mile a minute. And that's sometimes, unfortunately, is how you have to be, because you don't want people to see. People don't want to see you failing. The right people don't want to see you failing. But your mindset has to really be about, I can't be stuck in the fail part. And I have 3 daughters and a wife that depend on me. So there was not a matter of being stuck in a fail part. I had to know what's next. That's not going to work. What's next? And so that question, when you were asking about the confidence part, I will tell you, when I moved from Boston to South Carolina, there was a point there where I left a really good job and I wanted to get into at least something similar. I could not find a job for 5 months. I mean, never. I mean, I was tempted to just go to Burger King or McDonald's and start working, because all the money that we had saved up from working the good job, all the money from the good job that I used to have that was saved up was gone on all the moves that we had to do. And so when we came down here, we were already hitting our reserves. And so nothing was coming in. Everything was going out. And so I remember this, and I'm going to tell you this quick little thing. I remember coming down here and searching and waiting and searching and waiting. And I called up everybody. I mean, I called up I have a whole bunch of brothers and a sister, by the way. And I called up a whole bunch of people, and it was like, 12:30 in the afternoon on a weekday. And I'm having a mental breakdown. I'm sitting in Toyota because I need to somehow get out of this lease without breaking my back, because I had to count every penny to be able to hold on. But I needed to get rid of this car because I just drove it from Massachusetts to where I am. And you know how leases, you have so many miles in a year. Well, I was already coming up on my 2 years, but I've only had that car like 9 months. So I needed to get out of that car. And so I was stuck because I started seeing all this money kind of getting ready to be exposed, and I didn't have it. And I was on a desperate dial. I was calling one person, calling the next, until someone picked up. And finally, one of my younger brothers, he was in the military, not military, I think it was the reserves, but he's the one that actually picked up the phone. I don't know how he picked up. He's like, "What's going on?" We just started chit-chatting, and he heard it in my voice. Like my voice was a little creaky and not strong. And he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I have a dilemma." And he's like, "What's that?" He's like, "I haven't had a job in like 4 months, and I need a job. Everywhere that I'm applying, I get no responses." And I started applying desperately to other jobs. And one job called me back and said, "We can hire you, but the most that we can offer you is like $35,000 a year." I was making 4 times that. And now I have to settle for a job for $35,000. And it was like a punch in the gut. Like it was. And so I'd got that job offer while sitting in Toyota trying to figure out my life and how to get to move forward. And I couldn't process that information. My mind in my head in like the years and everything. How am I going to be settling for a job? I don't understand this. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And so I called everybody. Like I was telling you, speed down. My brother calls me. He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I don't know what to do." And he's like, "What's the problem?" And I said, I explained to him. I was like, I don't have money. I don't have a job. Everything is falling on my wife's shoulders right now, and all this and that. I was like, "But I finally got an offer." And he's like, so what's going on? I was like, "Bro, it's like a part-time job." And he's like, "Ouch." I said, "I know." I was like, "I don't know what to do." He goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I was like, "I don't know if I should take it." He goes, "Orlando, take the job." And I said, "What?" He goes, "Take the job." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Why do you think you have to take the job and stop looking?" And I was like, I've never worked a job where I don't commit myself. Every company I've worked for, I've always been in it for the long haul. I never once said, just take it for now and find something better, because I never had that mentality. And so he was like, "Take the job, but keep applying." And it just clicked a little light bulb in my head. And I was like, "Oh, you're right." And so took the job, and again, fell into the right people. People kind of promoted me. I was like, Orlando, you need to do better. You need to do better. You need to do better. And so they moved me from the wire department over to IT. And in the IT department is kind of when my next life change happened. Mm-hmm. And that's when, my wife was like, Orlando, we're settling, we're living, in our family, in your mom's home. She's letting us stay for free, but we can't do this forever. And like I said, my wife is like, she's hardcore. And so I was like, you're right. And after a year, we decided we were going to go in and buy our first house. And I mean, I am very, I hate to say this, I am very frugal. Mm-hmm. Like I'm scared I like to save I'm like a squirrel before winter, like get all the nuts and try to hide them and save them everywhere. And my wife is like, no, she's all about eating them up. Hey, you're going to enjoy it, be fat during the winter. But so my wife was like, we need to get into our home. We have to start growing. Mm-hmm. We have to start setting roots because our kids don't know home. And I was like, you're right. We've never bought a home before. And so we bought our first home, obviously with some help with our family and stuff like that, because I didn't have money. Bought our home back in 2018. And that's when my next life change happened. So bought the home, and more so the guy that was there, his name was Jake Williams. We bought our home, and we stayed in touch sporadically after we bought our home. He, text me or message me, a month later or 2 months later, and he said, hey, just want to check in, how you're doing, making sure everything's okay, you and the family are good. I'm like, yeah, no, we're good, cool. Fast forward about 11 months. So now we bought our house in, I think if I'm not mistaken, we bought it in September of 2018. And we are now back to September. So a whole year passed. Mm-hmm. And Jake calls me up and he's like, Orlando, it's time to refinance, brother. He's like, I think we need to start getting you into a different loan. Let's have you do your thing. Let's get you to get better interest rate. Let's save you some money. Cool. I'm going to use the word bird for a bad word. Mm-hmm. And so he calls me. He's like, hey, send me over your documentation. You know what you need to do. We've done this before. Your W-2s, pay stubs, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay. So I put my little email together and I sent it over to him. No lie. 5 minutes go by. And he calls me back. And I pick up the phone and say, what's up, Jake? He goes, Orlando, what the bird are you doing right now? And I was like, what happened? He goes, is this really your paycheck? I'm like, yeah, that's my dad. Yeah. And he's like, you're wasting your life. And I was like, now you got my attention. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I don't know what you're doing at that bank, but whatever it is, that you're not worth that at all. And so I was like, okay. He goes, have you ever thought about mortgages? And I said, yeah, once with you when we bought my house. And he was like, no. He's like, have you ever thought about working in mortgages? I said, I know nothing about it. Even when I had my own house, I had no idea what I was doing. They just said, sign here. And I was just signing. No clue, right? All I know is that I have a house. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, Orlando, I want you to come to the office. I want you to sit down and just hear what I have to say. The problem is that he knew he could sell the socks that I'm already wearing to myself. So he's that good. And so he was like, come on in. And so, went to the office and, he walked me around, introduced me to his people that were working in the office and whatnot. And it was cool because everyone was just very, very, it was just cool. That office was just cool. And so we sat in his office and he started talking to me. He's like, this is what I see in you. He's like, I see you are a people person. I see that you can get people to talk to you. I see that you are able to relate and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, why are you not using that in your favor? And I was like, well, what do you mean? I am. Mind you, I'm over here thinking I'm working projects in IT and I'm being the little middleman, the hybrid that I was telling you about. And he's like, that W-2 is a joke. You know what he did to me? He pulled out his W-2. I was so mad.
Oh man.
He's like, I'm not up here. I'm not gonna talk to you about anything. I'm just gonna show you what I'm talking about. And he just pulled that out, and I was like, and he's like, you can reach that. He goes, if I can do it, and I used to only sell sandwiches from Jersey Mike's. He was like, you can do it. I was like, I'm in. And he's like, well, you can't quit yet because we still got to refinance your house. And so he had to wait for me to refinance. Once I quit my refinancing job, now believe it or not, at that point in time, specifically, everything happens at one time. I was actually thinking about working for a pool company. Yeah, a pool boy. Listen, my wife even made up a dance for me. And if she ever watches this, she'll start laughing because she made up a dance of me being a pool boy. And she's like, this is going to be you, Orlando. This is going to be you. And that, oh God, that stuck with me. But I mean, that pool company was actually a good opportunity at that time because again, I was working on $35,000 a year. They were just going to double it easy and say, yeah, it's a pool job, but I mean, we want you to kind of take on and be something more, maybe even grow into being a part owner. And this is a small pool company at the time. Now she's national.
Wow.
Had I stuck with it, I don't know where I'd be, but there was a lot of little nuances there that was very difficult and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I ended up going and working with Jake. And so Jake was like, Orlando, listen, it's a commission job. I've never worked commission in my life. And so he's like, this job is commission. However, I know you have a family. I know that you can't just cut everything off and have to just start, depending on something that you don't know how to do yet. He's like, so why don't we do this? Why don't you first work for me as like my loan partner, right? An assistant. And so you can start learning about mortgages from the front side. So like the technical side, what the documentations are requirements, like, being able to feel comfortable talking to the clients, giving them good news, giving them bad news, it's just like all that stuff. He's like, let's get you that side first. And then once you start feeling comfortable, start thinking about moving you into maybe a junior loan officer position. And he's like, but that's kind of my plan for you. Then eventually you need to clip those wings and just go. Be full on commission because that's where your money's going to be. And I was like, okay. I like the idea of going slow because commissions scare me. And so jumped in it for the first 9 months. This was back in beginning of 2021, right? Like when like the end of, COVID. Yeah. So it was like 2020, 2021 time. And so he was very busy. And so like it was constantly, just learning. And so I just had a good rapport with everybody in the office. I loved the office. The office people were awesome. And there were other loan partners or assistants as myself. And so we kind of developed a little clique and stuff like that. And it was just a good group of people. And so I decided to one day, I was like, I'm wondering if I can just take the test. So to become a loan officer, a mortgage loan officer, you have to pass a national test. The test is not easy. It's, I think like the passing rate was like 17% or something like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's an aggressive test.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I remember them, like when we have conversations about, studying and stuff like that, my loan partner was like, yeah, Orlando, it's like, I failed my first one. I had to pass it on the second one. And I was just like laughing. I was like, you serious? And he's like, yeah. At the same time, there was another loan partner. His name was Cody, really good friend of mine as well. And he had tried twice already and he'd failed twice. And he's been there for a little bit. He's been busy too. And so I was scared of this test. And they were like, yeah, Orlando, it's like 100 and something questions and you have to get, a 75 or higher and stuff like that. And so I took the course. I paid for it quietly. I didn't want to let anybody know what I was doing. And so I don't know, but if it's a Latin thing, but it's like you try not to talk about something you're wanting to do because you feel like everyone's going to jinx it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. So I kept it to myself because I also, in case I failed, I didn't want everybody to know. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take the test. And so I studied, I took the class, took it for 2 weeks quietly. And then what I did was I ended up taking the practice tests. So the practice tests are an hour, right? The real test, you end up getting 2.5 hours. But for the practice tests, you get an hour. And it gives you, I think it's like 100 questions. So it's kind of like a real practice. And so you have to be consistent. And they tell you you're ready for an exam when you can score 95 or higher on the practice test, right? So if you can consistently score 95 or higher, you're ready to take the test. And so I was taking 1 a.m. when I woke up. So I woke up at like 6 a.m. because I have to drive my girls to school. And I had a little bit of time. So I got to the office early, took a practice test, and then went to work. Went home, had dinner, hung out with the kids. Right before bed, I'm laying in bed. My wife is next to me. I'm like, babe, I'm going to take a test. She goes, okay. And I hop on my computer and take a test. And I did that for 2 weeks. And so my highest score that I got was a 93. But my consistent score was like in the 80s. And so I was like, okay. And so I just scheduled my test. And so I scheduled my test. And I remember arriving there and I said, Orlando, there's no pressure. Nobody knows. I don't need to pass for now. And I'm just wanting to know what the test is like. So kind of like spying, like kind of like a taste test. You know what I mean? And so, because then that way I have an idea for when I really am serious. Okay, this is what I should be expecting. Right? Okay, so I go in there, and this the testing facility has that test for different people. So there were doctors there that were taking their doctor tests or whatever it is, and there were nurses. There was real estate as well, the real estate exam. So all housed in the same spot, right? And so you go in, and then you go sit down, put your little headphones on, and start taking your test. And so the clock starts, and it was like I had so many memories of like what people telling me ideas to do and this and that. And when I came and sat down and hit the start button, blank.
Oof.
Blank. All my little hints and things of what to do to get you ready for the test. And hey, Orlando, make sure you write down this what do you call it, the acronym. Write down this acronym because it's going to remember the flow. Blank. Zero idea. And so I'm just going through the test. I'm like, all right, well, that didn't work, so let's go ahead and keep going. So I'm reading, and hitting this question mark, flag it, come back to it, this and this. We'll go through the test. Took the full 2.5 hours, and I get to the end, and there was 4 questions or 2 questions left, and they were very similar, and I just couldn't know how to answer them. And there are 4 questions out of 125 questions, and I'm over here looking at it like, these 4 questions are going to decide if I pass or fail. I had no idea if I was going to pass or fail. I had no idea if those 4 questions would even make a difference if I got them 4 right or if I got those 4 wrong. But in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to break me or make me. Those tests, when you go in, you will know before you leave, when they give you your ID, whether you pass or you fail.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's like one of those, hey, thank you for coming. Here's your score. And so she gave me the piece of paper, and it's all, you have it, it's folded up. You fold it up because you don't want to look at it right away, because you don't want to cry in front of everybody else. And so you get it, and I got into the car, and I looked, and I kind of took a breath, and I was like, okay, before I look at it, just remember, Orlando, your expectation was just to understand the test and learn and know what to do. I turned it over, and I got a 76. I passed. I started crying. I started just absolutely crying, because after that test, I was exhausted. And now I'm thinking to myself, yes, I have a bargaining chip to move up. Now I can negotiate for myself. No. My life then just went for a complete turn. At that time, I passed the test. 2 days later or 3 days later, my boss, Jay, calls me and says, Orlando, we got to talk. I appreciate everything you do. And I'm just like, oh. And now in my mind, he didn't want to talk in his office. He wanted to go for a walk. He's like, and I'm over here thinking, he found out I took the test. I'm like, someone let him know. Some flag came up on some website somewhere, like my company. So I'm over here nervous because I think I did something wrong. And you know what it was? I passed the test, my bargaining chip ready in my hand. I wanted to talk to him about getting a raise or something, whatever. He drops the bomb on me and says, Orlando, I am leaving. The guy that was paying my salary was now leaving. And he said to me, he's like, listen, I can't solicit you. He's like, I cannot, for legal reasons, I cannot take you with me. I cannot say, come with me, because I can get sued for that. He's like, but I need you to see what they're willing to pay for you to see if you should stay. He said, but I think you'd be awesome with me. That's all he said. And I was just like, when are you leaving? He goes, really soon. And so now I'm just like, what do I do? Fast forward, he left, and I waited. I waited to hear an offer, waited to see what was going to happen, because I was only working for him. But there was nothing. He left, and I got nothing. There was no, hey, Orlando, listen, I know, you were working for Jake, or, I know that you were making this much. Hey, how about we have you working and, being a partner for these other LOs or whatever it is. Nothing. And so in my mind, I had no option but to go. And he was starting his own company. Kind of like how you're starting a podcast. You're just putting all your faith into hoping being able to do something. That's what he did. And I did. I joined him, and we ended up going. And it's been a process ever since then. So ever since that part, I was always a loan partner. And now the trick was, how do I stop being a assistant and then be a him, be a Jake? The problem was I didn't have exposure to that side. I had no idea what to do, because I knew how to get paperwork. I knew how to talk to the clients about, hey, what's the next step that's coming through. I knew how to, maybe do a little bit of an income calculation of how to, what their income is going to be. But how do I sell a product? How do I know what they can afford? How do I know, what guidelines they can hit are going to be in the way? I had none of that. No exposure to that. And so my confidence was, so that bargaining chip that I had for me now became a kryptonite. Now I have what it takes. Now I have the license to be a loan officer. But you know nothing about being a loan officer. And it mentally messed me up. Mentally. And the problem was that I'm assisting him, and at the same time I'm trying to do what their role is for myself, but I didn't have the time. So now I'm putting a pressure of making sure that theirs are, locked and tight, and me trying to go out there and get new business. I couldn't make it work. And so time went on, and I felt like their expectations were realistic, and I felt like I wasn't hitting them, or I wasn't asking the right questions, or I didn't know, like, what I can depend on. And so they were more of like, Orlando, you just got to start doing it. Don't hold yourself back. Just do it. I didn't understand that part. And so it just was one of those kind of like, you're holding yourself back. But this is where the dad in me kicked in. And I felt like I was now no longer helping them. I felt like I was a burden and holding them back. And I couldn't shake it off. So, working every day, and like, I'm messing up a little thing on a file, and I oversee something, or, I should have thought of that when he passed that over to me, or, I started messing up a lot more because I'm trying to focus on how now to do their job. And I couldn't do the job that they hired me for. And so they tried, but I couldn't get over the fact that I felt like I was being more of a burden than helping. I felt like I was asking more questions that I should have known the answer to than doing it. You know what I mean? So that is when I decided, you know what? I feel like I'm letting you down. I don't want to ruin the friendship that we have. I think now I need to go a different direction. So the guy that brought me into mortgages, the guy that held basically my family and stuff like that with the money that he was paying me, I had to let him go. And the day that I went to talk to him, I cried. I don't share that with everybody, but I talked to him, and I couldn't face him without feeling like I was letting him down again. And so I told him, I was like, I had to go, but I had already a plan. I was going to continue doing mortgages, but I was going to work with another friend of mine. But he was he was a beginning LO as well. He had just moved to the state, and he was from Missouri, but cool guy. Name is Alex St. Pierre. If you ever get to meet him, you're lucky. Great dude. And we golf often, and I remember one time that we were golfing while I was kind of going through all this process, and he goes, Orlando, we were already friends, and like we were just kind of golfing. He's like, we'd make a really good team. I was like, yeah, you're right. And mind you, I'm just kind of talking to him. Like, yeah, you're right. We'd be awesome, and hitting golf, having a beer. And that damn seed, he left it in the back of my head, and it was there. And I remember when I would have a question on a loan, and I try to reach out to Jake or Zach, and they're just tied up because they're busy as well. And I'm like, damn, I have this question, and Alex would pick up the phone, and he'd help me. And then another time, same thing, called, they're busy, called him, he'd pick up. And so when he dropped that nugget on me that day, it already came with like roots, and it was already flowered, and it was now growing in my head. And so when I started feeling that I was letting them down, I realized that, I have to kind of let go of this part, because I think they need more from me, and I don't think I had that for them. And so I decided, I was like, I have to make a change. And so I went and I started working with my boy Alex, and me and him, we were tight. We were working good. I was learning more, and it was a good time. And then that made a change. And I'm telling so my mortgage career, as short as it has been, I have bounced over and over and over and over again. Some by choice. There's 2 times that I decided that I had to walk away and start a different job. But most of the time, I had no choice. It was, like I said, Jake leaving and me following. It was the bank taking over. It was we're switching banks. It was we're no longer happy here. We're going to move over to there. So we're picking up our whole unit. We're going. So as I'm trying to develop a rapport, I'm trying to develop a brand for me. But every 4 months, I'm passing out a different business card because I was switching jobs. So it was never simple. It was never simple. And I feel like sometimes for me, I don't know how to learn things the right way. I feel like I have to learn the things the hard way. And I've realized that the lower I start, the harder I work to move up. And I think that has been my strength recently, is no matter where I start, because every job that I've had, from IT to trading to mortgages, I started in the lowest position. Every single one. And whether it's rubbing shoulders with the right person or whatever it is, I've been able to move on and move up. And so if I was to be a success, is to first acknowledge how many times I failed. And every time I fail, I succeed differently. And so, yeah, my story is very much twisted in ups and downs, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. But it's always been for the better. What's question number 2?
That's a journey.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing that I'm working through, but I'm sure many other individuals is, when it gets hard, what do you do? What's your advice? What's your advice from your experiences when it got low and it was hard and it was dark and you felt alone? What did you do?
Oh, God. I mean, that's easy. My advice would be, don't be scared or embarrassed to find someone to help you out. Because I told you, all of this journey, all of it, every up, every down, every year, every tier, every raise, was because my wife was behind it. So for me, she pushed me. Obviously, that entails, when I say my wife, it is mainly my wife. I want to say 93% my wife. But those other 7% are my daughters. Like they're smiling, they're happy, and I don't want to lose that. And so her confidence, her pushing me, her never losing faith in me to be the person that I can be, was something that I needed. If I didn't have that, I don't think I'd be in this chair talking to you about successes. I don't know. I don't know. But that is my advice. If you feel that hole that you're in is too deep, reach out for somebody. Doesn't matter who it is, as long as it's someone that is willing to genuinely want to give you help. And I'm not saying financial help. I'm not saying offering you a job. I'm not saying, hey, let me go ahead and, stop by and bring you some lasagna every Friday or something. No, like that help where either it's a kick in the butt or an assertion, or just the belief, right? Just like when Jake said to me, "What are you doing with your life?" How was I failing? I'm working a job. I'm getting paid. I'm buying. I'm refinancing my house. You helped me buy. In his eyes, for me, what I should be having was not on that paper that I sent him. And it never was for my wife. And still to this day, I'm not yet the man that she knows that I can be. So that's my advice. If you ever feel like, why am I stuck here? Why am I doing this job? Like, it's comfortable. It is whatever. you have to be able to have someone or reach out to someone, whether it's a parent. Parents are very good at, saying good things, but the only problem with that is that they're always going to be in your favor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's tough on that side. But if you have a cousin or a sibling or a partner that can, sometimes smack you in your face and be like, listen, what are you doing? What are we doing right now? That is important.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's important. So
that's good. That's great advice. Being aware of who you're around too is a big thing that at least I've been trying to observe in my life as of recently, is who am I giving my energy to and who am I taking energy from?
Yep.
That's very important. But we have who Orlando Torres is. We have his story. So tell me, Orlando, who are you becoming?
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, that same question was presented to me in high school, where I thought I was going to be working in some kind of TV networking broadcasting show or a teacher. I've always wanted to be a teacher. That question was asked to me when I got my first job. And that first job was nothing compared to where I'm at now. It has no relation. So it's, what is Orlando going to, what am I going to be in the future? I know what I know I hope to achieve. I hope to achieve to have 3 independent women grown up to be successfully happy. I know that I want to see my wife hit her dream of being able to own a business, being able to run itself, and her being the owner of it, and maybe having more franchises open. I know I want to be part of that. And for me, I just want to find a place where I can enjoy that. It's seeing my wife grow her business. It's me seeing my daughters being happy and successful, however that be. That is the part that I want to enjoy. Not to have financial freedom and being able to, have everything paid off and 0 debt and 800 plus credit score. Yeah, that'd be great. Who doesn't want that? But realistically, what would make me happy is seeing them successful. Wow. Is that weird?
That's
that's
incredible.
That's
weird,
incredible.
I mean, that's what continues,
It's like making me emotional thinking about it.
No. My father, because I'll cry too. My father, I'll cry on this. I haven't cried on an episode yet. I was hoping to not cry at all. But
I'm
my
good at
father, yeah, you got me tear up. My father, sat me down once and looked at me in my eyes and said, my dream, my greatest accomplishment is you.
Oh, see, that's not fair. Whew.
Yeah. So it's powerful. It's powerful. Having a supportive father figure is powerful. Telling your daughters you love them every day. It's powerful. Not everyone has it, you know.
No,
so,
and I tell that to my daughters. I mean, I tell them all the time, like, you guys are spoiled. And they say, oh, Dad, you're old. It's because you were walking in the snow for 10 miles. And, they're like, oh, I'm so old. No, I tell them, I was like, you're spoiled because you have, number one, you have 2 parents in your household that are raising you. They will drop anything that they're working on at a drop of a dime to be able to get to you if you need help. I'm like, you're spoiled because you get to really have an opportunity. And I say this, and all I'm picturing is my parents telling me the same thing when I was younger. It's like, you have an opportunity to be more than what we were. And as I tell that to my kids, I keep on looking back. I'm like, damn it, I'm sounding like my mom. But it's true. It's true. But it's also a different generation. Like, time now from when we were growing. Well, yeah, not you. When I was growing up, it's very different. Then I look at myself. I'm again a hybrid of phone, but as well as texting, messages, whatever, Zooming, those kind of video conferences. I'm in the middle of that. But now I'm looking at like my daughters, and it's texts, and so it's interesting how you can how I'm fortunate enough to see it. So I told her, I was like, you guys are just lucky because your mom and I forced you to have childhoods. We forced you, like, I mean, to the point where my wife bought chickens because she wanted chickens in the backyard of my daughter to kind of mess with the chickens. So it's very, very, very much that. So it's important to, yes, have a father, but have people in your life that care about you. You know what I mean? It doesn't, not always is it going to be a dad, because sometimes a mom has to do both roles, right?
Yeah.
Women have become single moms. I was raised for the first part of my life as a single parent, but it's important to have someone know that they love you no matter what. And so, is that an scapegoat to do whatever you want? No. It's just a reassurance that as long as your mind's in the right space, your heart's in the right place, and you're respectful, I know that the actions and the decisions that you make are for the better. And if it makes you happy, let's go. Now, if one of those three pieces are missing, then we might have to reassess that decision. But overall, it's about supporting, building, cultivating who they are, because none of them are the same. As much as we want to be able to make them what we want them to be, it's a fail. Because at what point do you realize it's a projection as opposed to an expectation? Do I want to project myself onto her, or do I want to set an expectation for herself? Which one is which one am I doing?
Right.
And so I think as a parent, sometimes that line becomes very blurry. And so, but having someone feel that is important to have. So that's why you're lucky too.
I'm blessed.
Yeah.
Blessed. Definitely feel blessed. Yeah. I really appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome.
This was great. I mean, I feel like I've met your wife already. One, I'm so excited to watch your daughters grow and be these beautiful women, happy, blessed women, as I'm sure they will be with a father like you. Aww. And with a mother as your wife. Thank you so much. This is powerful. Your story is powerful.
Thank you.
It will definitely influence many. It's influenced me. And it, we've had a conversation before, but your story made me a better person. So your impact and the influence that you hold is powerful. And I've overused the word powerful. I've used it so many times, but I really mean it. I really mean it. It's incredible. So,
well, I mean, let's not give a credit to your mom, who, by the way, sometimes when I needed a uplift and just a voice of sheer just positivity, listen, Soylita is top of my list. She is no joke.
Yeah.
She is no joke. And to say that you're blessed, you are 100% blessed, for sure. Everything else aside, that woman is strong. That woman is strong. And I think you and I are cut from the same material when it comes to parents that we have. And so if there's a way to be able to be half of what our parents are for our kids in the future, or for whoever it is that we're trying to be part of their lives, I think that's the generation that will always continue succeeding. But if not, if we end up just kind of getting into our little bubble and trying to figure out how far our life goes, and it's only seeing into the tip of our nose, I think that's when we let our kids down.
Thank you, Orlando. I really appreciate it. And this is Orlando Torres, Ali, Season 1, Episode 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Orlando Torres, or from Primary Choice Lenders. At the moment, who knows where I'll be in 7 months. But thank you. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.